Bernard Sanders, a progressive champion. A lot of you love him. Some of you have ridiculous, I think, feelings towards him, that he's a sellout and all of his stuff. I think you're crazy, to tell you the truth. Love you anyway. But Bernard Sanders did a debate on Monday on CNN. He was with Amy Klobuchar, a Minnesota senator, facing off against Bill Cassidy, Lindsey Graham. Emma did a great video on it, actually, very detailed. And basically, Amy was like there. No offense, Amy. But he kicked their ass, let's put it that way, and really made a joke of them. But before that, the corporate media and the Democratic establishment saying Bernie Sanders is complicit in the Affordable Care Act possibly going away because he is pushing Medicare for all at a time when we should really only be focusing on saving the ACA. I guess I just imagined the rally I went to in Kentucky where he wasn't pushing Medicare for all. It was all about stopping the Republican health care bill. I guess I imagine him standing on stage with Chuck Schumer at a rally to stop the Republican health care repeal efforts. So Bernie Sanders has been around the country specifically trying to stop Obamacare repeal, but while the attention is on health care, he, God forbid, took the media opportunity to push Medicare for all. In that debate also, he said, in the short term, our priority is to stop these two clowns' bill. And then he talked about Medicare for all. Well, the Democratic establishment did not like this, and our friends at Morning Joe did not like this.
If you believe repealing and replacing Obamacare is a good idea, this is your best and only chance to make it happen, because everything else has failed except this approach, which will work if we get behind it. If you want a single-payer health care system, this is your worst nightmare. Bernie, this ends your dream of a single-payer health care system for America.
I cannot believe how stupid this is politically. I cannot believe that Chuck Schumer or anybody could have ever signed off on this idea where you're actually going to drive a lot of people towards Lindsey Graham's bill because you're going to, oh, wait a second, socialism, Medicare for all, for a system we already know is going bankrupt, versus returning it all to the states and taking a chance. Well, both of them are radical. Do I want to go with the radical plan that I know is going to bankrupt America, or do we go with a radical plan that may not bankrupt? I mean, how could Bernie Sanders, how could Amy Klobuchar do this? Because it's not just the Democrats they're letting down, it's millions of people that would be hurt by the passage of the Republican bill.
Right. Here, the reality is that Medicare for all as a concept is way more popular with people in principle, and it polls much better than what the Republicans are suggesting. However, if you're Bernie Sanders right now, and you see Lindsey Graham giving that speech he just gave, which is he's baiting Sanders. He's baiting Bernie Sanders into a debate.
And Bernie took the bait.
Any halfway sane politician who sees the principal sponsor of the bill Republicans are trying to pass, baiting him in that way, says, you know what? That guy's trying to bait me, probably for a reason. And you know what? The whole point here is to keep the focus on how bad this Republican bill is. We can have a debate later, if you're Bernie Sanders, about the virtues of Medicare for all and single payer. You might win that debate.
By the way, how about after next Saturday?
That's what I mean.
How about when the calendar's in? It's not like he's got to wait till 2019 to launch his presidential campaign.
All you got to do for this week is keep focused on how horrible this Republican bill is and how many people across the spectrum of every stakeholder in the healthcare system is against it. Just keep talking about that. That's all you got to do. Don't take the bait.
You know how the Democrats have been touting that even the insurance companies are against Graham Cassidy? Well, if you read through what the insurance companies are worried about, part of it is that the people who have insurance now will lose it, but they're also worried about single payer.
All you gotta do, Hillary Clinton, is just keep focusing on how bad Trump is and don't give any alternative, and everything's gonna be fine. Don't give an alternative vision for America. Just talk about how bad they are. Oh, wait, that didn't work out so well for the Democratic Party. Yet, for some reason, I can't even imagine why, these pundits on MSNBC are proposing that Bernie not talk about it when the healthcare debate is raging. It's like the same people that say, it's not the time to politicize this tragedy. it's the exact time to talk about it because this is when we are discussing health care in the middle of this proposal. The Democrats have to say we have a better alternative proposal. Also, they side mention that in theory, Medicare for all is more popular. It's not in theory. The poll numbers are extremely consistent. And additionally, the idea that Scarborough frames this as bankrupting the country and all of this stuff, it's so close-minded. The entire world, industrialized world, all these established nations have universal health care. No one talks about that on television, ever, ever. And the idea that they're trying to say Bernie is taking the bait, he's not playing these political games. He thinks this is the best vision for America and that people should know that the Democratic Party and many people in it, 16 co-sponsors, are offering this to them. It's that simple. So it's just, sometimes I think, Morning Joe, sometimes they're more sane than other people on TV. After the election, they had Michael Moore on and talked about how, God, Bernie would have won, essentially, and how Hillary Clinton did not connect with that part of the country. But then they do stuff like this, and you're God, that bubble is so thick. And, oh, by the way, Scarborough used to be a Republican, I forget, senator or representative. So just, that media bubble is thick.
You know what I think is radical? As Joe Scarborough says radical. You know what I think is radical? I want to take my shirt off. I'm so angry. You know what's radical? Plutocratic, millionaire, cocktail crowd, pumpkin spice latte drinking. I'm a hypocrite. I do like a good pumpkin spice latte. Guaranteeing health care for us peasants, i.e. the whole country. That's radical. No, you're radical, Joe Scarborough, and you're disconnected. And I love Mika just sitting there. Hate to take on Mika. I know I'm a sexist. And she's like, yeah, political suicide. Yeah, I agree with my fiance over there. No. Let me explain something to you. And Chuck Todd, who I did a video on addressing his creative facts when he interviewed Bernie Sanders, these people, they got great health care. I worked at MSNBC. You could read my book to find out more about how that was, corporateconjob.com. I worked at MSNBC. Comcast gave you great health care. I think my copay was like $10 for a regular doctor, maybe $25, $30 for a specialist. That's nothing compared to what a lot of people pay. Deductible, not high. These people, Joe Scarborough, his son actually, I don't remember what happened, had a skull fracture or something like that. A traumatic brain injury. I don't remember the exact details, but he was off air for a little bit. Great health care for his son, and I'm glad he did, and I hope his son's doing well. But for them to say, oh, it's so radical, Bernie's plan is going to bankrupt America. Well, they don't seem to be asking, how are we going to pay for Trump's tax cuts, which we're about to talk about next? They don't seem to be asking, how are you going to pay for the $80 billion additional we got for the defense budget? By the way, Trump only asked for $54 billion, which was reckless and crazy as it is, and they gave him $80 billion. That's your Senate Democrats, by the way, agreeing to that. So how are you going to pay for that? Is that going to bankrupt America? No. Because if it keeps Lockheed Martin and the defense contractors going, it's good for America, right? And if it keeps the pharmaceutical companies, many of which advertise on MSNBC, going, it's good for America. But Bernie having the audacity, like they say during school shootings, not the time to talk about gun control. They say during storms, not the time to talk about climate change. And now they say when we're trying to save Obamacare, not the time to talk about the most popular healthcare program, the most successful healthcare program, and the healthcare program that every other country, including Germany, which I was just there, uses. The hell out of here, Joe Scarborough. It's ridiculous. And another thing, again, Bernie Sanders probably did more than most establishment corporate Democrats to save the ACA. I didn't see Nancy Pelosi going across the country doing press conferences and rallies about the ACA. Did you?
No. Well, that's because Nancy Pelosi is unpopular. And you know who is popular? The most popular politician actually in the country is, say it with me, Bernie Sanders. Yeah. All right. Well, he's sipping on his pumpkin spice latte, so he can't talk right.
Cold brew.
Okay. Well, Starbucks anyway. Actually, I like Starbucks. I got a liberal owner. Anyway, so I think that it's just easy for the corporate media to continue to run around in their bubble. They never talk about how popular Bernie Sanders is because it is inconvenient for their narrative. And it's not because he is the funniest guy in the world, the most handsome guy in the world, someone who has a lot of money that can force people to make you like them, Hillary Clinton, and it didn't work. But he is someone whose ideas are popular. That's the whole point. So when you say something's radical, you can't just say it's radical. What defines radical is how people view it. So when a majority of Americans believe that something should be in existence, that's not radical. That's actually what I would call centrist, because it's what the center of the country thinks, 50+%. So don't just say things are radical with nothing to back it up. Back it up with data. But I know, as always, extremely inconvenient.